Hi all, welcome to Indian Weekender Kia Hora, New Zealand. Join me in a chat with Jay Changlani, who'll give us an overview on last week's New Zealand Budget 2020 and tell us what's in it for Kiwi Indians. Jay is the director of Orb 360, a chartered accountant specializing in international and domestic tax. He provides a wide range of tax technical advice across all tax types. Jay has a wide range of experience and has a broad understanding of tax regimes. The majority of his work involves providing technical tax advice, tax planning, international tax, and managing IRD disputes. Hi, Jay. Welcome to Indian Weekenders Kia Hora, New Zealand. By now, I'm sure you had the time to digest the New Zealand budget. We're looking forward to your informed overview and your insights into what's in it for Kiwi Indians. Okay, this budget, we all know, has been delivered in the most surreal of circumstances, in the midst of an unprecedented health and economic crisis, a double whammy that has got the world reeling. The government had very little time to work out this budget. Do you think Grant Robertson's Rebuilding Together budget will deliver? Do you think it is kind on all Kiwis?
First of all, thank you, Dave, and thank you, Indian Weekend, for giving an opportunity to me and all 360 chartered accountants to talk to you about my thoughts regarding this budget. Just to give you a good, and the first overall, I just feel that this budget has been a good budget in the circumstances that we were in. How the government managed to pull it out in the last minute. In fact, by Monday, there were still changes the Treasury is making. So in normal circumstances, you'll probably hit a panic button if that happens. But in a situation like this, you have to really be agile. And I feel government has put their, they were really agile in terms of achieving what they've achieved. So in a brief, if I have to talk about, there were some good things we've achieved out of this budget, but there are really some some really relevant thing they could have done better or really relevant to Indian business community, which I'll talk to you in the next probably 5 to 10 minutes. So without further ado, I'll probably talk to you about what does this budget includes and where I think they could have done a little bit more. To start with, the government, this budget was actually, as you rightly said, was under due pressure to actually get things going economically because we are in the pandemic and we are going through this process of dealing with this COVID-19, and the response to that, the government came up with this budget. Now, overall, they allocated $62 billion towards this budget, and $20 billion has been unallocated at the moment and has been kept aside to deal with this economic response and ongoing issue that they might actually come across. The budget, at a glance, has got $3.2 billion, a limited extension of wage subsidy scheme. Now, wage subsidy scheme has been really successful. Businesses that were struggling, they have actually more than 50% of New Zealand businesses applied for wage subsidy and avail that benefit to keep their staff going. And this is an extension. $3.2 billion will be an extension for another 8 weeks, which will be starting from 10th of June. The application will open from 10th of June. And one of the requirements is that, the revenue loss at 50% at least has been suffered by a business in the last 30 days or so prior to applying. That means between 10th of May and 10th of June 2020, they have to showcase that their turnover has gone down to be eligible to apply for this. Now, the other thing is around $5 billion have been allocated to build additional 8,000 houses and provide tenancy support. $1 billion to fund environmental jobs on land such as pest control and Department of Conservation work to support the regions. Launching a temporary loan to ensure business could continue with the R&D work, which is very important and critical for New Zealand economy for the recovery. This will be administered by Callaghan Innovation. So Callaghan Innovation is the premier organization that supports research and development in New Zealand. Additionally, there's $200 million to NZTE to support exporters, an additional $10 million to provide government assistance for businesses to improve their e-commerce abilities. Now, this is the area I'm going to talk to you about my thoughts, which I think is very relevant. 1.6 billion allocated to trades and apprenticeship program or packages, effectively allowing free fees for particular sectors such as construction. Again, they want to make sure when the recession, which recession, we are in deep recession now, the people who are like in the training or just started their jobs, like an apprentice, uh, are the first one to lose their job. So they're protecting those people so that when we are in a position, when we're recovering from this, we've got some trained and skilled staff so that we are not, there's no shortfall in that. So that's a very good initiative. $3 billion infrastructure project announcement. Um, and that is expected to be announced shortly. Additional $3 billion towards health, further assistance for caregiver, food banks, and expanding these school lunch program. 400 million for the tourism sector recovery fund. I'm not sure that's sufficient. 400 million is pretty much nothing for $40 billion economy. It's we're talking 400 million is very minimum,
Do
very
you
minimal
think?
in this
Do you
instance.
think there is something hidden in that 20 billion for the tourism industry, which
Yes.
will come later?
Yes, I think that wage subsidy scheme will be definitely be part of significantly impacting this tourism industry, which has got pretty much zero income at this stage. So yes, it has tied up with that, but I think the specific targeted approach could have been a bit more, in my view. I think 400 million specific investment or putting money aside for tourism is, I think, it's a little bit light.
Yeah, you
100.
said that, when you started, you said that there could have been a few things which the government could have done better. Can you
Yes.
outline what those could be?
Yeah, let me just complete last 2 points and I'll come back to that.
Okay.
There are a couple left, and I just covered the entire budget investments, and I'll come back to that. So last two bits around 137 million for the Fanua Hora and 195 million for Pacific Recovery Fund. There's quite a bit of money spent for Pacific, which is needed, and $1 billion allocated to support core education services, including early childhood. Fantastic. So this is what the overall budget looks like. Now, the in terms of what the government could have done better, I would say bit more targeted approach. I think government has done a good planning in terms of having a clarity around the wage subsidy scheme, which is more targeted now for industry like tourism and for industry like hospitality, because they have suffered significantly, more than 50%, in some cases 100%. So that's targeted there. I think the other things they could have done better in terms of tourism, having a more clarity around how this recovery, this $4 million could be spent. I have a clarity around that. I think it's still very light in terms of investment around that. Also, coming back to Indian community, I feel that there needs to be a bit more in the the education sector could have done. They could have actually done better in that, in terms of they allocated $1 billion to support education services, which includes early childhood. So the market includes quite a wide. It's went really wide. It's like sprinkling over everything. Instead of that, a more targeting approach could have been better. Now, in the Indian community space, I've got a lot of international students here. There has been nothing allocated for that, and the government, and also the businesses that are suffering due to unable to pay rent. Now, that I think is the second most largest expense a small business will face. Number one is a wage, so probably in the range of the 25 to 35% is the wage cost of a small business as compared to turnover. We're talking if you're earning $1, 25 to 35% goes towards wage. And then the second biggest is the range between 10 to 18, sometimes 20%. If you add these two, we got probably more than half of the expenses that's related to the expenses for every dollar you earn. So I think they missed out on that, actually not having a clarity or have a plan to support businesses and landlords around the rent. That's one thing they missed out. I think there need to be a bit more coming out of this, but I think overall I feel good that they did put an effort. If I bring back to the Indian community or Indian business community, I feel there are a few areas that I think Indian community could could work on, or could look at. Now, few ideas. There are four things I think Indian community could work with government. I think government could have actually done better around the reform of the banking system. They did actually have this 80% business loan available for the government, guaranteed by the government. I don't think that has been, um, it's not, it hasn't achieved its objective at all. And the reason being, the banks have not done what they're supposed to do, or the government has not really understood what is required to make that work. What they could have done, in my view, is to work with the banks having a separate digitalization sort of an online portal, and have a limited access for bank to actually make decision, because bank is making a decision on 100% of the security instead of 20% of the security, which is what the mentality is, and therefore they've taken a very conservative approach. So that's reform from the banking system. The Indian community could work in that space if they are into IT, or if they are, if they are doing well in that sector, could align or give some feedback to the government in that. The second thing is that what government could have done is to actually look at, probably have some sort of reforms for the large companies. When I say large companies, the companies such as, which are doing a turnover more than, in my view, more than $10 million. I mean, the last definition is 50 million, but I'm saying if the turnover is more than $10 million, they should come up with the reforms to actually get those companies to pay the suppliers within 10 days term. Now, some of these big companies have got a terms such as 60 days, sometimes 90 days. So the small business or a tradie or a small business operator, a subcontractor gets stuck in there because they don't get paid for a very long time, which is what something government could have done or could look at doing. The third thing they talked about, the Kiwi investment. I think they could actually build a massive fund in this scenario where they can, or especially for targeted approach like ethnic community, they could look at an ethnic community fund which can deal with the investment in that ethnic community a bit more than what they've got. They do have some fund available, but I think in this instance they could do a bit more and let these people get involved in a way that could be looked at in the different sectors. One other thing I could tell you now is that the ethnic community fund could look at training those, especially say Indian community or any ethnic community, to, to have a clarity about how to plan their journey to come out of this. Now, a lot of Indian community, as you know, are into small business, and majority or significant portion are into retail or hospitality space. So there could be some sort of planning that could have been done, or could government could do in that space. Finally, I think they could actually push to digitalize the whole country. They want to. I think in New Zealand did really well with adopting FPOS, which came in 80s. This is the right time to look at a situation where they can digitalize the whole country by implementing some really thorough processes in place so that the entire country can actually become a digitalized country. And this could be the one of the world earlier adopters in the world that could actually do that, and that could be a good sign where we can track a hidden economy, which is also troubling the government. So that could actually simplify a lot of processes and help other departments such as IID or work and income, and make the life easy. So this is what I think my four thoughts the government could do. In terms of Indian community, bringing back to Indian community again, I think Indian community is very resilient. They have done well in the recessions, in the past recessions as well. The liquidation rate of Indian community is around 1%, so it's really low. Indian companies generally don't go in liquidation. Why? Because we have this mentality that we work really hard, we put our effort 100%, and come out of it as a positive sort of a company. They're very, very resilient in terms of giving up and going under. So we have got a track record of this, and I think Indian community should be proud of themselves going into this and coming out of this as well. But I think they need to engage more. So Indian business community need to engage with the advisors. They should create their strategic relationship outside their group so that they can get some really good advice to come out of this in a stronger and a better organization. So here's some of my thoughts, Dave, regarding this.
Yeah, before you go, just one general question. When do you think, according to your prognosis, when do you think the economy will be back on the rails? How many months or how many years do you see?
I think it's a very hard question to answer because we are still in a deep recession at the moment. To say any number would be a difficult projection. But my feeling, if you just ask me my sort of thought process, I think you know this is not going to be happening in the next 2 to 3 months or 6 months. I would say a couple of years will take to come out of it in a way that that we look back to new normal. It's never going to be normal. It's never going to be the way it was. So people who are living in that sort of process or that mindset will really have to shift their mindset and think differently. Um, I say probably around 2 years' time we can see a bit more stability or more stabilizing it because the economy has going to be. And there was a prediction. I was just reading the Treasury report today morning, and they are saying the economy is going to be. The Treasury are predicting a sharp fall in economic activity, but 4.6% of GDP reduction by June 2021, and they are saying that unemployment peaking at 9.8% in September 2020. So we are saying that by September 2020, it was significantly the unemployment would probably going to go double digit, and the economy will have a sharp fall activity around 4.6% by 2021. So I'm saying that probably June 2021 there would not be much in terms of it'll be recovery. It's a long recovery, I would say, but I would say in probably a couple of years' time we'll see a stability coming through. By 2022, I think the things will start looking better. Again, it depends on a few things. One of the things is hope we don't have to go back to level 4 or level 3 again, because we've been through this, and we have to be really vigilant as a community as well, Indian community, that we all work together and follow the requirements the government is asking us to do, because it's not only about this coronavirus health issue, but if we have to go back to lockdown 3 or 4 again, it's going to be significant economic problems. We already seen how it impacted, but we just take that on board and work through a process so that we come out of this strong. My prediction would be 2022 we'll reassess this.
Thank you very much, Jay, and I hope to see you more, in this program in future.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dave. I really appreciate you getting me along and liking me to asking me to share my thoughts about budget. And hopefully, I've added some value to the viewers of Indian Weekender, and look forward to engage with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.